Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon and this is Breaking Free, and I am so happy to have you join us today. Happy Mother's Day to all of the women out there in the world, and men too when you're mothering, that love our children, inspire our children, empower our children. Thank you from my heart, and let's just make another year of just reaching out to all the kids that we can. So I want to thank you for being here. I know that your time is very precious, and we like to bring you the most interesting shows, the most interesting guests, ideas that maybe you don't think about, maybe looking at things in a way you don't think about them normally. And today is one of those days for me. We're going to bring a topic to the forefront of this show that's something that I generally shy away from. But when I take a look at something and I can see a different perspective, well, I'm breaking free, and I can use it in a different way than maybe I originally set out to use it, or other people tell me I should use it. So we're going to get started in that in a minute, but before we do, I just want to say hi to Amnon, who is our producer.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Great.
Great.
Week. Did you have a good Mother's Day?
I did.
You
I
mother.
did. I had a great Mother's Day. I got to see 4 out of the 5, and then plus my son-in-laws and grandson, and then my other daughter. I didn't see her yet, but I will. So yeah, it was great.
Good.
Yeah, and I love seeing all the people out there celebrating each other, you know, and all the love and what it takes
What a great start to the week.
Yeah, what it takes to hold up the world in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And mothers sure are good at it. And it's about celebrating the earth and Mother Earth at the same time, if you think about it. I didn't think about it yesterday, but I'm thinking about it now. Never too late, right?
Right.
All right. So, I don't like to think about impending disasters. I don't like thinking about taking care of things and hoarding things and doing this and doing that just in case. Because I'm of the opinion, like, if I'm going to do that, I'm somewhat sort of manifesting the worst. Well, that's coming from a part of me that could manifest the worst. But at the same time, things are going to happen. And when you allow things to just kind of happen on their own, and you are prepared in the best way to be self-reliant, and to, whether it's about a disaster, about your power going out, about your freezer not working, or whatever, that's empowering. And that's the topic of today's show. And last week I happened to have the pleasure of going to a 3-day conference, and I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to talk to everybody and anybody I can possibly talk to and find out who they are and what they do, because we're all so interesting, and we all have great stories that I have been attached to people's stories for years, and getting them out, because there's the flip side of all these stories that we can attach ourselves to that are positive. I met this woman last week who begins to tell me that her business is about being self-reliant and being prepared. And I'm like, oh yeah, but that doesn't work for me, because that means I'm going to have to be prepared for the worst. And she said, no, that's not how I look at it. And I go, da-ding. She looks at it the way I want to look at it, and the way I want to bring it to you to look at it. So with that, I'm going to introduce to you my guest, Sam Merrill. Sam.
Hi.
Hey, Sam. How are you?
I'm doing great, Marilyn. Thank you for having me on your show. This is great.
It's my pleasure. So tell us some things about you.
All right. I am married, and we have 7 children combined between us. I live up in Wake Forest, North Carolina. And I kind of had an aha moment, because I was in the mindset that you are in. And this happened to me about 3-4 years ago through a friend of mine who helped me wake up to knowing that I don't have to fear. You talked about empowerment. Empowerment is the key to preparedness. And it's not Hollywood. It's not zombies. It's not any of that scary stuff, because that just breeds fear. And like you said, you don't want to think about it. Well, the whole empowering part of it is thinking about it first. And when you're prepared, you don't fear. because you know what you're going to do. You know, you have a plan. It's going through life having a plan.
To protect yourself against something that, a disaster, a fire.
It can be unemployment. It can be a medical, happening, something. It can just be, I'm really down right now. It's, what is an emergency to you? You know?
So when you think of an emergency, what do you think about?
The whole gambit. An emergency can be, I have the flu, and I'm down for a week, or I have a flat tire on my car. What am I going to do? Right up to an earthquake, a fire, a tornado, and then you can go. It depends. There's the term prepper. Yeah.
Prepper?
Yes.
Prepper. Oh, prepper. What is a prepper?
Exactly. What is a prepper? Is it what Hollywood wants to make us believe? These, and you have shows about it. Yeah. Is it the gun-toting mama with a bunker in her backyard? Well, in some places, and for some people, yes, that is. But that's not everyone. That I think is the minority.
So what is it? So prepared it's a mindset. It's products. It's services. It's what? How do you? And I want to also say we have a chat that's going on in our chat room. So please feel free to enter into it if you like. You can put your name on the little space next to the window where you're watching us, and ask questions in there if you'd like to. Chat with the other people in there. That's perfectly great. We'd love to have you. And at any point in time, you would like to give us a call and say hi and share something that you have done or that you've been witness to, that you've had an aha in this subject. We'd love to hear from you. 919-518-9773. Or you can certainly call us in on Skype, voice at computers, that's plural, the number 2K voice, from anywhere in the world. Because from anywhere in the world, being prepared and relying on yourself and not depending upon other people or something else is the idea. So being prepared for an emergency, for a sickness, what do you do?
I break it down into 3 categories. First, awareness. Okay. Now, being aware is getting over the fear, because it's putting it in your mind that I can do this. And that's the empowering part. Our mind is where we start, because preparedness is a thought process, and it's thinking about it when you're at the grocery store and you see 5 for $1 on toothpaste or something, where you go, aha, yes, I can buy one and I've saved money, but I normally would have spent X amount of money, so I'll buy all 5 and I'll put 4 of them up on the shelf just in case. It's starting to be aware of what your needs are.
So what are the things that you would need in the awareness? What are the things that I would need to prepare? I understand
question.
Toothpaste, toilet paper, paper towels.
First, in that awareness, you've got to take an assessment of your life. Do you have children in the household? Do you have a older family member that you're caring for? Do you have pets? Are you on your own? You have to look at what your needs are and assess. That's why it's all being aware. Be aware of your situation. Do you have a medical condition where you might need medications? Be aware of what your needs are and who is in that household with you that you're responsible for, that you're going to be self-reliant with and for. By being aware first and recognizing your needs, then you put together your plan of action. Then you're doing it empowered with knowledge and with a positive attitude going forward, so that fear is not a part of it.
One of the things that you and I chatted about, which when my light bulb went off about Sam, was that I said, yeah, but that's manifesting a fire or a devastation or a war or God knows what. And you said, no, no, it's not. So can you help get me over that hurdle because I'm still stuck there?
Those things may happen. And they most likely, we can look back in history and those things have happened. There are things that will happen that we have no control over. So why spend your energy worrying about it? Why let that fear take over when you will have no control over? Think about what you do have control over. What is your realm of influence? It's your home, first and foremost. And that's where you start. And if those other things happen, the big major catastrophes, the big major emergencies, they can. We see them happening all the time. And in your mind, you always say, that happens to someone else. That's not going to happen to me. And I hope it doesn't happen to you. I hope it doesn't happen to me. But if it does, I have things in place in my realm of influence, in my home. I'm able to, and you ask me, what is it that you have to think about? First and foremost, sustaining, 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. Would you be okay for that amount of time? Start small and build. I'm not saying have a year's worth of food buried in your yard. Some people do, and that's great. That's where the level they're at. But for so many that are starting and are thinking about this and saying, I'm on the threshold of change. I'm becoming aware. What do I do? I'm kind of scared. I'm just confused. I don't know what to do. You just start with your circle.
So I like the idea of starting with like 24 hours because that's easier to think.
There you go.
So I sit here and I say, okay, I'm really working on this. So is it replacing one fear with another? Or is it, I know that where you put your focus and your emphasis is what you create, right? Mm-hmm. So if you walk around, fearful that, somebody's going to take over your life or something's going to happen and I'm powerless, well, that's a terrible feeling. But if you walk around saying, I'm prepared, if it happens, it happens, if it doesn't, but I'm prepared, and you don't obsess over something negative happening, mm-hmm. that you're not manifesting the negative, but you are, and it's still taking care of, an ice storm, or the heat of, goes on the Kaflooey, or something happens. So mm-hmm. there's all these things that I'm intellectualizing and trying to get into that space of, we should be doing this.
Yeah, and so part of this awareness is take an inventory of your life. What are the risks you think are most likely to happen in your life? Is it, I have an old furnace, so that could go out. Is it my water heater is old? That could go out. So then you think, okay, what would I do if I don't have hot water? Am I okay with cold showers? Okay. Or how would I heat the water? What is my game plan for if the power goes out? Do I have candles? Do I have maybe solar lights? Do I have a generator? There's all different levels of answering the question of what is my risk, what could happen, and everybody's is different. My needs are going to be different than your needs for a lot of things. However, we share some common needs, which is food, water, sanitation. Now, we can get along without power. They did before.
And we have before ourselves, too.
Yes. So, when you look at other cultures that don't have the electric light, that don't have the computers and the technology and the phones and they have different. So it's kind of a mindset, too, of are you comfortable with going back to another era? Mm-hmm. And how would you do that? Heat goes out. Do you have blankets? And warm clothing. Do you have, or it's really hot and power goes out and your air conditioning. Now here in the South, we know that that's
It could be pretty
that's
bad, yeah.
almost worse than the cold. The cold I can add on clothing.
So,
so
the aware. So I like
awareness.
I like the idea of awareness, and
Mm-hmm.
I like kind of chipping away at this, and just checking out, because these are things that can happen anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Batteries can go. Do you have enough batteries? Just like the everyday things that make our life smoother and easier to live with. Just the everyday things.
Right.
That you're not caught without.
Exactly. Shakespeare said, all things, what is it? All things are ready if our minds be so. And I like that. It is true. You can be ready for anything if your mind is there first. So that's why I said, and you mentioned batteries. Okay, if you use a lot of technology or things that need batteries and you want to make sure you've got batteries, buy them when they're on sale. So this has to be in your mind and thinking about it when you're shopping, when your neighbor gives you a bucket of peaches and you say, what am I going to do with these? But they have, or excess from their garden. What do you do? Well, learn. That's another thing. In preparedness is not just buying things, but learning the skills that
Like
have
what?
been from earlier times that we kind of lost. Skills like canning, which would be it's a water bath canning in the jars, bottles of food, dehydrating and drying food. I had, for example, a gift from my daughter was one of these grow it kits of mushrooms. Awesome. I had all these oyster mushrooms. And of course, they are at the prime optimum time for picking when I was heading out of town. What do I do with them? I didn't want to waste these beautiful grown giant oyster mushrooms. I have a food dehydrator. I stuck them in, turned on the fan, and in the morning, I had dehydrated mushrooms, which now I have preserved on the shelf, and now I take them out and I add them to soups and things like that. So, like I said, it's thinking about what can you do to use what we have and do what we can and be more at ease about knowing that you're prepared for later, for the what if.
So it's not about waste.
Oh, no.
Oh no. Go ahead.
Well,
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, we want not just for preparedness, but if you want to take it further and talk about just the earth and our generation the world now is a wasteful place. In so much, you look at the garbage and the landfills and I could go on and on about the garbage patch
okay.
in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean from all of our plastic and waste and bottles. And so it's not just being, and this is where preparedness to me goes along with self-reliance, because it's connecting to your surroundings and with things around you. It's making sure that, like when I'm done with my box of crackers, I don't throw the box away. If it's foil, I'll throw that away because I can't reuse that. But the box gets folded and put in I have a fireplace. And I have a fire pit in the backyard where the grandkids come and we roast marshmallows and we cook hot dogs and we have family time out around the fire pit. And so I've always got, talk about preparedness. I always have ways to start a fire because I save my cardboard and my newspaper and my, things like that.
So does doing all of this take up a lot of space? Not everybody has like a big home, a big storage area. I mean, what do you do?
This is, again, you're right. It can take up space. You want to be creative in utilizing the space you have. Think about spaces that maybe like under the bed. If you just got dust balls and shoes you don't wear anymore, can that be utilized for storing, having a cardboard box, and that's where you put your newspapers? I think we all, okay, I have a tendency to clutter. I hang on to things for emotional reasons. And so maybe we need, and I've had to do this recently, just be able to disconnect and look at your life again. That's part of the awareness, is realizing I don't need stuff or as much stuff, or let me prioritize my stuff. And what's more important to me? Having a supply of 1-gallon water bottles, because I've found them on sale at the store, and so I want to be able to store this water. So I'll get rid of the things I give to the thrift store a lot and get a tax write-off.
So this is really important. So Suziani is on the chat, and she's saying that she freezes fruit, vegetables, but she can't can. And I say, do what you can do. You know, something is better than nothing, and we always say that. And this notion of being self-reliant goes very much hand in hand with breaking free, because when you're self-reliant, you are self-caring. You're taking care of yourself, and that's a very freeing. It's freeing. There's no such thing as very free. You either are or you're not. So, but a freeing thing. Mm-hmm. And so, is there? So let's just recap for those people who might just be tuning in a little bit, because this is important. So you want to chip away at your life, and you want to say, can I live for 24 hours? Can I be okay? If my power goes out, if my air goes out, if I don't have electricity, if there's a snowstorm, if there's a this or that. Can I be okay in 24 hours? Can I be okay in 48 hours? Huh? What?
With freezing? I don't think so.
Well, yes, you can, depending on what kind of freezer you have.
That's true.
If, chest freezers will hold there's all sorts of things.
No, we'll say it, though, because these are the things we don't think about every day.
Right. A chest freezer will hold the cold longer, because when you think about it, you open a upright freezer more often, and everything just comes open, whereas the chest freezer, hot air rises, cold stays at the bottom. So when you open the chest freezer, it stays colder for longer.
This is great little ditties of information, really, because you don't think about it.
Right.
Okay, so we want to just keep this conversation. Go ahead.
But I like what she said. She said, I don't can. And that's okay, because start where you are.
That's right.
If that's interesting to you, then find, whether it's classes or go online. There are blogs. There are all sorts of things if you want to learn about preserving and bottling and canning food. But if not, you can dry it. You can dry it out in the sun. You make fruit. That's what fruit roll-ups are. It's just taking the fruit, put it in the blender, spread it out on a screen, and put it out in the sun and let it dry.
Do you use couponing?
I do, but I'm not. Couponing takes a lot of time and a lot of organization, and I haven't got that much time. In different times in my life, I was a very avid couponer, but right now, not so much.
And I think
when I do it,
I think we run into trouble when we coupon. I think sometimes we tend to buy more than we really need because of the coupon.
So you hit the key word. What we need.
What we need. Go ahead.
What do you need? The box of Ho-Hos? No, but they're on sale. Do you need them? No. And this is where you balance, because one of the things about preparedness is not just stockpiling stuff. It's not just having food on the pantry. It's also having control of your resources. Okay. Financial preparedness. It's controlling, trying to be debt-free. That is a self-reliant independence and empowering feeling, to know that nobody can come to you and say, I'm taking that because it really belongs to me. It's yours. You owe no one.
So you are starting a business.
Yes.
To teach about self-reliance and preparedness. Is that right?
Yes.
So can you give us some idea? Can you give our audience some idea of what that means as a business?
As a business, it's called APU Self-Reliance. A stands for aware, and it's like the three aspects, the three steps of preparedness. It's being aware, and then preparing for what you feel you need when you've taken that assessment of your risks, and then use what you have. As your person that chimed in and said, I freeze. Well, that's great. Use what you have in a way that you know that you can use it and be prepared going forward. What we'll be doing, this whole idea of the business came about from, I was very comfortable in a job that I loved, in an industry that I loved, but personally as a consumer, the things that I wanted to be more self-reliant and prepared for my personal life. I used to live on the West Coast. Lots of stores where I lived, there were retail stores. You could buy these products. You could walk in, get training on how to use them and know what you needed and talk with other people. Around here, not so much. And I have found that there are some like-minded businesses around us in the Wake Forest and Northern Raleigh area, and I'm trying to partner with them and find out, as I get to know those businesses, find out where their gaps are. And that's what APU Self-Reliance is trying to do. I finished. Prepare and use. We're trying to fill in those gaps to be able to give consumers a place, if they're in the area and want to come to the actual brick and mortar store, we'll have products there that are, we've got like 9 areas of preparedness that are important.
Like what? Give us the...
Okay, water.
Okay, so you'll have water there.
Well, I won't have water to buy, but when you think about your water, do you have, like I have a well at my house. We're on well water. What if the power goes out? My generator is electric. All of a sudden, if the power goes out, I don't have water. So, what am I going to do? This is all part of that assessment and awareness part. What am I going to do? Okay, I have water storage. That's great. Do you have rain barrels? You can collect water that way.
So with your business, when it comes to water,
what
are you offering? Are you offering the barrels? Are you offering the way to create a...
First off, we're offering... filtration is important because you can get to water, but it may be dirty. It may be, contaminated. It may be the stream in the backyard, but you don't know what animal's been there. So filtration. There's an item called, it's called the Clean Sip Straw. And so it's a filtration straw. But not just for emergencies. I can put it in my glove box because I can be driving somewhere and have to stop at a restroom or at a, place and get a drink of water, and I don't know what's in that ice that's in my drink. I don't know what's I don't know the water source of the water I'm drinking. So it just looks like a regular little straw. It's not this big bulky thing, but it filters out all the nasties, So I can use it every day, and that's, for me, preparedness is not just preparing for the emergency. And that's the end part of the APU, it's the use. Using it, incorporating these things in your life now, so that if there's an emergency, you're already used to thinking about that. And you're already used to using, how to use. You have these things like a straw or a filter for your well, or you have a distiller or whatever. There's different things, different ways to purify water. So we'll have a couple of different ways to do that.
So that's first.
Water. And then food. Food's another category. We will have dehydrated foods that, now again, a lot of people already have dehydrated foods that you just add water. But you got to think about that. There's where the water comes in and is so important, because do you have the water to reconstitute your food? So you've got to think not just water for sanitation and not just water for hydration, but now you're talking water for your food too. So depending on what kind of food, we will have dehydrated food. We also have in the corner of the store, we're going to have what I call the show and tell corner. My favorite part of school, I think anybody's favorite part of elementary school, was show and tell. It is just so great to be able to talk about something that you're passionate about. So this is the corner of the store where we will have, you want to see a product, you want to see how a solar oven works, I'll have it out there. We can explain, we can show you. We'll have classes, we'll have webinars, we'll have guest speakers to be able to help educate. I don't want you to come buy something and then stick it in your garage on a shelf or in your attic and say, okay, I checked it off the list, I'm prepared. I know people like that. I've talked to people like that. And in fact, a lot of that, I had a conversation with a woman, and that's where this whole, or a good part of what we're doing, it just hit home to me. That I know people who have done the checklist and have stuff. And this woman said, oh yeah, I have food and I have water. I said, great. Where did you store it? Well, it was in the garage, which, by the way, you should not be storing it in your garage because you've got temperature fluctuations, so that, oh, it's got a 30-year shelf life. Not if it's in, high temperatures. So,
really.
To be able to, and then I said, well, great, have you tasted the food? Well, no, we've never eaten it. Well, do you know that your children will like it? It's a family. Well, no, but, my husband bought it, and it's just that box of stuff, and it's up in the attic, and so we have it stored under the bed and different places, and now I'm prepared. Well, you sort of are. But that's where the self-reliance comes in, to me. It's not just a checklist and having stuff. I can help you find the stuff, but we wanted to take it a step further and to provide the confidence in knowing your stuff and knowing what you're using and know how to incorporate it in your life now. My daughter, good example, my daughter, her husband lost his job. And she had dehydrated food in storage, but she had bought and tested and taste tested, and she knew what her kids would like. So that's what she had. And that's what they lived on for a year, supplementing as they both worked and until they got on their feet again.
It's cheaper to buy dehydrated food like that?
Is it cheaper? You buy it on sale. I don't know if it's cheaper or not. You pay, it depends. You can, if you don't want dehydrated, it depends on what you're doing too, because some people, if you want to buy a can of Dinty Moore stew, because and I say that because that was my daughter's favorite thing to eat. So, she loved canned stew. So, I always have some on the shelf.
Are you listening, daughter?
She might be. So have what your family will like and will eat and what you can afford. Don't go out and second mortgage the house to go buy a bunch of food. This is where, as we were saying before, start slowly, step by step. And buying what your family likes. If they love SpaghettiOs and that's all your child will eat, get a bunch of SpaghettiOs when they go on sale and get them on the shelf, because during an emergency, and an emergency can be when you're sick in bed, it can be whatever disrupts the normal, you want as much normal from before as possible.
Somebody, Suziani is asking us if you have ever heard of this brand, Augustin Farms?
Augustin Farms? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is your opinion of it?
They're good. Augustin Farms, and actually I started researching brands, and in fact I have purchased. I bought Augustin Farms, I bought Wise, I bought Thrive, I bought food insurance. I've bought a lot of, I've found like 26 different company brands. And that narrows down to about 5 or 6 different manufacturing plants that in the U.S. Some of them will put out and just private label, for different companies.
So this one's a good one.
Augustin Farms is very good.
Okay, so we talked water, we talked about filtration, we talked about food. So get us through the list,
Okay.
the 9 categories, and then the show and tell of products like solar stove and those types of things.
And lights and
lights,
all different things.
Okay,
yeah.
and then what's next?
Okay, so we've got food and water. That's where you start because that's basic. And
Okay.
then right after food and water is sanitation. Nobody wants to talk about sanitation. But you got to think about that because that is where you get into trouble on the long term or over several days. That's where disease and just the bad stuff happens afterwards. The initial emergency, if it is something like a tornado, earthquake, tsunamis, floods, snowstorms that just knock out everything, meteorological type of problems, you've got to think about sanitation. And even if it's just, okay, hurricane coming and we know we're in the path, so what do? Now, for most, you always listen to what the government agencies do tell you to do. If they say evacuate, you evacuate. Mm-hmm. Now, plan. Okay, so what am I going to take with me? I have, not much time to evacuate. I have to leave because something's coming my way. Tornadoes, we don't get that much warning. That's more of a hunker down. But if something's coming and they say to evacuate, forest fires, California, West Coast, a lot of those happening, what do? Well, if you have planned, if you're aware and know that that's one of your risks, then the smart thing to do is to have, nowadays the term is called a bug out bag, or a BOB. Grab a Bob, grab Bob, throw him in your car, or maybe you already have one. Have a bag that you can grab that's got 3 days of things to take care of sanitary needs, sanitation, and a lot of things in the store we won't carry because they're basic things you can get down at Walmart, get it on Amazon. There's things that I, as a small store, will not be able to compete price-wise with the big box stores.
But educating.
But it's educating, and so it's saying, okay, what are you going to need? You're going to need a light source, you're going to need food, you're going to need water, you're going to need a change of clothes, you're going to need, do you have children? So if you do, throw in a deck of cards, throw in a game of Uno, throw in something to entertain kids.
But is this a lot to think of? I mean, it's a lot to think about.
It is, and that's why if you try and think on the grand scale, it is completely overwhelming. And that's why I'm trying to say pull back. Yes, there's a lot to think about. But that's why if you just stop and be aware and prioritize what's most likely and just take care of that one need first.
What's your passion in all of this?
What's my passion?
What is your passion in all of this? Why? I mean, I understand, you're a hobby. What do you see for the world or for your community or what?
Yeah. My passion is because I had my own aha moment. I had my own moment where I had a complete 180, a complete shift from being afraid, from saying, okay, I have stuff, but please, oh, please, don't happen to me. Or, if the world is coming to an end, tell me where ground zero is because I want to be there. I'm going to hop in the car and drive to ground zero and just let it be over with because I don't want to deal with the aftermath. I was so afraid. And it was crippling almost that I didn't want to think about it. And when I had that 180 from a very good dear friend of mine who got me to just think differently, now I want people to know that it's not scary. It's not something that you have to worry about. As there's a difference between worry and planning. So if you take control of what you can, start where you are, then it's, like you said, it's empowering. And I want to help people feel that empowerment. I want them to not be afraid. I want to help them learn new skills. I want to help them say, I can get through 48 hours or 72 hours. I have prepared, I even have a spare bag of dog food for my dog because I love my dog.
Well, and it's not just, when I'm sitting here and I'm taking in, is that it's not just about something that could just happen, that could be, a freaky disaster, but just in any day life, just having that extra thing of the thing that you never let go lower than the onesies or the twosies. It's always being prepared. Last year we had not last year, not that long ago, we had a bad snowstorm here that came in, like snow came down in the fastest flurry I'd ever seen. And I was stuck in my car for 4 hours to go around the block to my house. Yep. Now, I will make sure that in the future I have certain things in my car in the event that I'm stuck in my car. Whether it's my wind thing was freezing, I didn't have a scraper. I could have always used a couple of bottles of water. A couple of snacks would have been nice. I had to get out of my car to chop the thing, my windshield, because it was freezing so much. But just to have some things, an extra pair of gloves, in my car.
So you have become aware. And it was because of necessity.
Right.
Because it happened to you.
Right.
You're now aware of that happening.
Yeah, no.
And now you'll be prepared next time.
Right, now my car may break down someday. I might be, who knows? But I'm not obsessing over the fact that it's going to happen. But I want to have those things in my car in the event that I'm stuck in it for some reason.
Exactly.
So, we're not just talking,
now,
I have to get away from this feeling of disaster because I don't like the feeling of being prepared for that. But
so let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
okay, I get your chair now.
Go for it, honey. I love it.
Okay, you've now, because of necessity and because of that experience, life has taught you now what to do. So now you're not afraid of that anymore because you know what to do for your car, for that situation. So now you've got that under control, right?
Yep.
Okay. So just take it now to the next step. What's another place? And that's where you're assessing where you are in life and what other risks can happen. So, because all of us are not going to be home when something happens. We may be at school, we may be at work, we may be at the grocery store, we may be on the freeway like you were when the ice storm. I had similar experience. Took me 9 hours because of the snowstorm and the ice and everybody, traffic going absolutely nowhere. Took me 9 hours to drive the normally 15-minute drive to my husband's work. And I was trying to get home, and we ended up just staying at work. So having things in your car is the way to do it.
And I guess
then take it to the next level.
Yeah.
The next place you can be.
And I would say that, some people would have an extra pair of glasses lying around.
I have an extra pair of glasses.
Just in case your pair of glasses breaks or you can't find it.
If your job requires you to be able to see clearly and you're detail-oriented and you have poor vision, so an emergency for you would be, my glasses broke. I had such an emergency when I was actually whitewater rafting, and I didn't take off my glasses like I should have, and I got thrown out of the raft and lost my glasses, and I had to drive. I have really bad vision, so luckily I had a pair of contacts, but have a backup plan. That's all preparedness is.
It's interesting because I like to think of certain things strategically. If I'm going to go to an appointment, and I live in Cary, which is a suburb, for those of you who are listening and don't know anything about Raleigh or where we are. It's a suburb of Raleigh. So if I'm going to go to Raleigh from Cary, which could take me 35, 40 minutes sometimes, 50 minutes if there's traffic, I want to make sure that I am doing multiple things in that area at one time. I don't necessarily want to drive the 35 for one meeting and then come back. I'd like to do a doctor's appointment, meet somebody for lunch, meet somebody for kind of plan, be strategic with it. It makes it freeing for me. And I get a lot more done, and I don't feel like I'm being put in a box. I'm just analyzing my day, my schedule. I think it's kind of like what we're talking about. It's about being strategic with your life in general. It's your life, it's my life, and when we can depend on ourselves for, whatever we might need, as much as we can ourselves, we are taking our life in our hands, and we are responsible 100% of the time for our life. And there are certain things that we can be responsible for that doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to figure it out, And
Exactly.
These things that we're talking about seem so, like, in some cases common, or maybe a pain in the neck to have to do. But really, when you think about it, a little thing can go a long way. And when we do that, we live our best life.
Yes. And it's those little things that really make a difference.
Right.
Because I think change for people, for everybody, change is uncomfortable. And so changing and having a different mindset about this does take baby steps. I don't know if you saw the movie What About Bob? You remember that one with Bill Murray?
I don't remember.
And anyway, that's his whole thing is baby steps. Funny movie. Anyway.
We call them freedom steps here.
Yes, freedom steps. And it is. It is freeing to be in control of your situation of what if.
Right. So, in other words, what would self-reliant mean? I want to stand up for myself. I want to be empowered. I want to take care of myself. What does it mean to be self-reliant then?
I have the perfect quote for you.
Go for
Henry
it.
David Thoreau, who wrote a whole book on self-reliance. He said, what lies behind us and what lies in front of us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And when you think about that, what's behind, what's ahead, they're just small compared with what lies within. It's who we are and our potential. And oftentimes it's emergencies, and it's when you hit that brick wall, and when you hit that what seems to be insurmountable. And when you get over it, you're that much better. You're that much stronger. Adversity always builds strength in each of us. And so self-reliance does that as well, because it just gives you that feeling of knowing that I can. I don't have to rely on somebody else to help me. Now, do we want to be in a position, are there times when we have to help others? Absolutely. And building that community around you, being able to form a neighborhood group.
So that's part of it.
Absolutely. Because no man's an island. We don't want to be, I don't want to be personally the one, sheltered in my bunker with an Uzi and worried that somebody's going to, come and get me. Could that happen? It could, but that's not the scenario I'm really thinking is my greatest risk. I'm thinking more something, trees are falling. I have a lot of big trees around my house. So what is likely? My risk? Trees falling, power out. And am I there, or my neighbor has the same thing. So am I there to help my neighbor?
Yeah, it's really thinking highly of yourself. Whether you leave a key at your next door neighbor, but it's thinking of, how do I take care of moi? How do I take care and love myself, my family, and making sure that a friend has something that I might need, or that you reciprocate, or that you create these communities in your neighborhood to help each other, so you're not depending on something outside of yourself, but you have the wherewithal and the means to make a difference in your own life. The same thing goes for technology. I mean, how many of us walk around, leaving the phone in the house when you go out sometimes, so you're not, totally reliant on your phone for the time, for, the weather, for everything that's going on, so that you have this sense of freedom. So you're not, allowing something else to take over when we are capable, as she said in her quote, as Sam said, it's about building the strength from the inside out.
I like one thing you said there, and talking about disconnecting. If something happens, and talk about being prepared, power might be down. Technology might be. I mean, your emergency could be, I dropped my phone and a car ran over it. There's all different kinds of emergencies. To me, that would not be emergency, but to you it might be.
Well, for me, having an extra power cord to charge my iPad is extremely important.
And you can check it off and you've got that.
Today.
But you know
today.
what? But and we were talking about this before we started. Once you start thinking about preparedness, it's not just planning and being aware and then having what you need and being ready. But then the next step is to incorporate this mindset into daily life. So it's great to think about, I may not have power. Okay. So what would you do if you were without power for 24 hours? Why don't you practice it? Why don't you have one day a month with your family? And especially if you have children in the house, if it's not scary to them or anybody in the house, if it's not scary, if it's familiar, and you did it once or twice, or you do it once a month in a controlled atmosphere, then when things happen that you don't have control over, then you say, I've been through this before. It's not scary. So once a month, you just say, okay, this Friday's going to be disconnect day, and I'm going to not use my phone. You'll live if you don't look at your Facebook. You'll live if you don't go on your computer. You'll live if you disconnect for a day. And then you say, okay, I'm going to not go to the store this week. Can I live off of what I have in the house? Can I make up meals? Have I got enough? That kind of thinking to put into use and practice this self-reliance. That's where the use comes in. Use what you have and think about what it is, the scenarios you might be in, and practice them.
I really love what you're saying about even just practicing, because we don't think about, you could put blinders on and nothing may ever happen, but that if you've practiced some of what Sam is talking about as far as fire happening in the kitchen, what do you do? I think the important thing is talking about these things and not making like they may never happen and there's nothing, but when something does happen. So I think having an open dialogue with your family about the things that can happen, like what do we do if, or
very important.
If we're upstairs and something happens, and what do we do? What do we even just have this acknowledgement of what do you do? Sometimes you have no warning. When we've like Sandy and all this stuff that happened, in New Jersey and all through there in New York. If they don't have a warning, what are you going to do? But maybe there's things that you say, if anything happens to me, I'm coming to your house. If anything happens to you, come to my house. You always have some place you can go, or
have a plan. That's part of the aware, and that's part of the putting it into use, is to have a plan and talk with your family, and have a meeting place to go. If you're at different places, there are times things happen that you cannot connect. But one thing to know, in an emergency, generally, you're not going to be able to call out on your phone. But did you know that you can text? Your phone, the voice may not go through, but text often will. It takes less bandwidth for the communication. So in an emergency, if you have to know who it is, have a plan, talk as a family, or talk with, if you are a single person in your household, talk with who you will connect with, and have your network of people around you, and know where you need to go, where you're going to meet up, how you're going to connect with each other, and text and just know, there's people and loved ones that, I have kids that live all over the United States, so I don't have any influence. I can't be there to help. The mom in me wants to be there and help, and I can't. But how can I help? I can talk and train and prepare my children and talk about these things so that they're comfortable,
Right.
and they put these plans into use. So I know that, okay, I see that a storm's hitting, northern Utah, or my daughter once had to evacuate because of a fire. These kind of things. The more we talk about it, the more we're comfortable.
Right. And so, we do here on the Breaking Free show. Bring things to the forefront, bring things to light you might not have thought about, but now you will. And we're almost out of time for the show, but I'm glad
It goes so fast.
Yeah, I know. Sam brought up some great points, things that you can do today, that you can just, think about tomorrow and put into practice, into use. So they're opening up a store, but they're going to have an online presence. You're going to do trainings. I'm sure she's going to be writing an ebook shortly.
Yes. Well,
of
blogging and
stuff.
I'll be on all the social media.
Tell them where to find you.
You can find us at APU. That's A for aware, P for prepare, U for use. APUselfreliance.com. The website's not quite finished yet, but you also can find me at Samara, SAMARA, Merrill, MERRILL. I'm on Google, Samara Merrill. Also, let's see, Facebook too. We're all
Perfect.
those places.
And then if you go on our Breaking Free page on Facebook, just keep us updated, keep our audience updated, and we can comment
I liked
back.
you.
Yes, I
And
saw
once
that.
we get going, you can like me too.
Absolutely, and Google too. And put
All
out
of it.
some,
Yes.
put some things like some of the things you mentioned today. Put some more out. Did you know you could do this? Did you know you could do that? Stuff like that. I think just keep putting it out so that we all can say, yeah, I could do that. I already have that. Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. I mean, I never thought about the texting, so that's great. And we're almost out of time. So remember, anytime you want to connect with me personally, just click above my head to where you'll see Meryl and Shannon and my email. Just by all means, if you have a story that you'd like to share, an idea, anything like that, please let me know. That's what this show is all about, bringing our stories out into the world, into the public to see and appreciate and love you for. We'll be here next week, of course, with another very interesting show and another way for all of us to feel free, break free, be self-reliant, that we don't have anybody to rely on but ourselves, and to share information. So I want to thank you so much for being here. It was
Thank
great.
you for having me.
My
It's been
pleasure.
great.
My pleasure. Amnon, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Oh, thank you too.
This
And
was
everybody
awesome.
out there. It was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
great.
And I want to thank you all for joining us today. And we will be here next week, and we will see you then. Bye-bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, and if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. ThatVidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.